Hey guys, welcome to another random reflection. Sorry I was absent the past couple weeks. I've been sick with something, they're not sure what, because you're not allowed to go to the doctor unless you have a fever or a cough or you're in risk of some sort of major illness, and I was not in that situation, but I had to stay at home and I wasn't able to speak, which made recording videos like this very difficult. Anyway, I'm better now and I'm glad to be back with you all here. Today, I think I want to talk about change, mostly because in quarantine, in the stay-at-home world that we're in right now, I've really kind of lost all sense of time and all sense of change in the world. It kind of feels like I've been at home forever at this point, which I know isn't true, but that's just what it feels like being in the world currently. The only real measure of change I have is that my hair has gotten ridiculous and out of control. I really needed a haircut before everything started, and now all of the hair salons are closed, but as a result, I've been thinking a lot about the inevitability of change in the world and how, even if it feels like right now is how it's always been and how it's always going to be, that's just not true. And that change is always going to happen, and that's a part of the human experience, that's a part of what it means to be alive and in the world. And humans have some very different responses to change depending on the circumstance. Sometimes, like now, we want it to change and we don't like how things are. We want something to be different. But in other situations, you might be afraid of change and you want things to stay the way they are and you never want to go into something new because it's scary and it's something to be afraid of. But coming at this question from a Catholic perspective, it's really interesting to think about how change is really one of the gifts that we're given as humans. If you think about God doesn't really change. You could argue that God's a human and Jesus changed. He was a human being, but God the Father, we say, doesn't change. He is all the same for all time. And when you think about angels, they are also these eternal, unchanging beings for the most part. But we as humans always have this ability to change and to grow and to become more than we are now. Ultimately, it's kind of this gift of hope, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, but this idea that we as humans can always hope for something better because we know that we have the capacity to change. We know that we are not the same person we were even a day before, a week before. We can always become something new and become something different. It is part of our choice that we can choose to do the next right thing or we can choose not to do the next right thing. And really, that's what human beings have done for the whole of human history, is we've gone out and we've done things that make the world better, more usable, more helpful, especially to us as humans. We practice an instrument, we play a sport, we learn some new subject. We do all these things that help us as individuals get better and these things that help the community as a whole be better. And really, when you hear people talk about being a disciple and talk about the Christian calling, what we are called to do is to work together and to make the world a better place and to make ourselves better people and, as a result, make the world better as well. We acknowledge that none of us are individuals that stand alone. We are all dependent on each other. We are all connected with each other. We all do things together with other people. And we can do so much with others that we cannot do alone. Any one of us as individuals would not be able to build cars and planes and send astronauts to the moon and develop vaccines for major diseases. But working together, all of us have the ability to come together and be something greater than any of us is as an individual. When thinking about yourself, it can be really easy to forget that you are a part of something greater, of this greater whole. And also, when looking at just the greater whole of society, of the world, of a country or a state or a city, it can be really easy to forget that that item is made up of smaller things as well. And the great gift of change is that if we can remember that we do not stand alone, and if we can remember that the whole is made up of parts, we can change to make the whole better, and we can change the whole to help us more. Change means that we are not static beings that always exist one way forever. We have the ability to morph and grow and become more than we were before, and maybe find that gap in society where something is missing and fill that. And even if we aren't perfectly made to fill it right now, we can become the piece that fills that gap. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it today, is that the way things are now are not the way things are always going to be. And the person you are right now is not the person you are always going to be. Our great gift and our great responsibility as humans is that we are able to make ourselves better than we were before, and we are able to make the world better than it was before. Whatever you're going through right now, it's only temporary, and you will always have the ability to be better than you were before.